Early today, you heard from Keith in talking about the big vision and the reason why the Krach Institute was founded in order to make sure that technology advances freedom. And so I'm going to spend just a few moments right now talking about how we get that done and how you and I and all of us together are going to make sure that we get that done. But before I do that, a few things have been on my mind lately that I'd like to share with you, and I think make the fact that all of us are here today that much more important. First is 1 year ago this week, I joined the Krach Institute to come and lead the organization. And I've been reflecting a lot on what we've been able to do over the course of the past year. First and foremost, building an incredible team. You're going to hear from so many of them today. Our Chief Operating Officer, Janice DeGarmo, who is a transformative leader at the State Department, stood up the Center for Analytics. We've got Colette LaForce, our Chief Marketing Officer from AMD and from Dell. You may have heard of these companies. Lee Rubenstein, who helped build edX, which was one of the largest massive online course platforms in the world. He got them to 40 million plus learners. He's going to do the same as we train and educate the next generation of tech diplomats. Hiro Rodriguez, our Chief Business Officer, Mark Carlson, both of them from DocuSign, Brad McKinney from the Commerce Department and XIM. So just an amazing group. In addition to our amazing advisory council, our global tech security commissioners, so many of you who are here in this audience. So I think about what an amazing network that we've been able to build, and what better way to celebrate 1 year than together here with all of you. So that's been on my mind, how far we've come and where we're about to go, which is what we're going to share with you over the course of today. And then secondly, in the past few weeks, I've been doing some travel, and in particular, I was in Romania. That'll make Doran happy. But I was in Romania and in Vietnam over the course of the past few weeks. And both were really fascinating. It was my first time in Romania, in Bucharest, fourth time in Vietnam. My family's from there. My mother fled Vietnam in 1975, just days before the fall of Saigon. My father served in Vietnam, and so always really fascinating and a special time to go back and see the sort of difference in two futures. But I've been thinking about this because you have one that's still communist, one that is post-communist, and both of them poised to try and take the next great leap for each of their countries, to be leaders in and of themselves, but then really to play an important role in each of their respective regions. But you see the cost that communism has had and is having on them economically, technologically, from an innovation perspective, and how much harder it is to get from behind that power curve once you have freedom and all of those other things taken away, and the work that has to be done to try over the course of generations then to rebuild prosperity, security through innovation and technology. And so even more important for us to talk today about the solutions and what has to be done so that we are holding on to what we have, so that we don't lose it and have to work harder to come back from it, if at all. And then thirdly, we are watching the fight between freedom and authoritarianism, good versus evil in so many ways in real time today. What Israel is going through with Hamas, the terrorist group right now. We'll hear from Yuval Porat on our advisory council later today. He's there. One of our team members, Len Kordakovsky, is in Israel. Many of you know him. A couple weeks after the October 7th massacre, he said, I gotta go. So he hopped on a plane. He's been in Tel Aviv and in Israel right now to see what happened and to tell those stories and to help with their information strategy. And I was texting him with him this morning, and he's like, I'm the Krach Institute outpost in Israel where freedom has no choice but to win. And so he's out there on the ground helping to fight the good fight. We see China and Russia growing ever closer, Russia waging war in Ukraine. And so all of these things, the fight is happening now in real time, and Keith talked about it earlier, that it is a four-dimensional contest between freedom and the free world and authoritarianism. It's diplomatic, economic, cultural, and military, and technology is in fact the crossroads of all of that. So if we want to secure freedom, we're going to have to secure high tech. So the fact that we get to solve this problem, the fact that we're all here today in this room to talk about a strategy, to talk about solutions, is all the more important. And that's why I'm particularly excited to be here today, because everyone in this room knows that freedom is not a spectator sport. It's going to require the participation of all of us, private sector leaders that are here, entrepreneurs, technologists, innovators, engineers, government leaders, diplomats, all of us working together to make sure that we protect what so many generations have worked so hard to create. We're not going to wait around for somebody else to solve it. We're going to solve it ourselves. And that's why the Krach Institute exists, to solve. We're not spectators, we're solvers. And that makes me so excited to be here today in this room as all of these things are going on across the world. So I'm going to talk a little bit right now about how we solve, and it's really going to frame the rest of the discussion today and some of the conversations you're going to hear that I hope initiate ongoing discussions around how we solve. So here is a framework. If you think about the Krach Institute and what Keith was talking about earlier and why we exist, these are the three things we can uniquely do and must uniquely do in order to make sure that technology advances freedom. And so first is to train and educate. As Keith was saying, one of the great things about President Meng Cheng coming into the State Department was because of his depth of understanding of 5G and the science and technology that then allowed us to make really smart and informed policy decisions when it came to building the clean network. And so we are going to fill the gap and the need for diplomats, policymakers, military, government leaders, private sector leaders to understand all of the critical components of tech diplomacy. That includes technology, so drawing on the engineering excellence of Purdue University, which has become one of the most consequential universities in the United States. So taking the power of Purdue and the technical expertise, and we have many of our Purdue fellows here today, marrying that with private sector know-how. As Keith talks about it, Silicon Valley's waging economic warfare every day. And if we want our corporations to win, if we want the private sector leaders of the free world to win, we've got to understand the commercial dynamics of technology in addition to the actual tech. And then finally, the foreign policy and the national security pieces. Those three things are critical. Those three things are what the Krach Institute brings together. And so you'll hear a little bit today about the Tech Diplomacy Academy. Our Chief Training and Education Officer, Lee Rubenstein, is here. We will be launching that in January of 2024 to help fill the gap, meet the need, to help educate leaders of the free world on tech diplomacy so we can go build that next generation who's going to secure high tech. So that's piece number one. Piece number two is strategies. We want to develop strategies. We want to develop solutions. Most importantly, right now is our Global Tech Security Commission. We have many of our commissioners and their advisory councils here. We're bringing together tech sector leaders with 15 international leaders like Audrey Tang, she's the Digital Minister of Taiwan, Sir Ian Duncan Smith, Member of Parliament in the UK, Dan De Laurentiis of Purdue University, one of the foremost experts on hypersonics, Dan Golden, the longest serving administrator of NASA, the best players in technology and in government, as well as foreign policy strategy, to build the global tech security strategy. That is a strategy, it is a playbook, it is meant to go be operationalized and implemented. We don't want to put out white papers that go sit on a shelf. This is about a playbook that we can give our partners and allies to go implement and accelerate the innovation and adoption of trusted technology. You'll also hear the panel right after me talk about China risk. And we're putting together a China risk mitigation playbook to, again, provide solutions for corporate leaders to mitigate financial, legal, reputational, employee risk that comes with doing business in and with China, so that they aren't beholden to the Chinese Communist Party. Those are the types of strategies and solutions that we're here to go execute, develop, and implement in order to secure tech. And then finally is building the global trusted tech network. And you're all part of it. Congratulations. I didn't know if you knew that by being here. But you are, really. Private sector leaders, government leaders, leaders from academia. We must rally and unify leaders of the free world to come together in order to secure high tech. Not one of us can do it alone. We have to bring together all of our areas of expertise in order to do it. And we've got a model for how it can be done. Keith and the team at the State Department built the clean network to secure 5G. 60 countries, 200 telecommunications companies representing 2/3 of global GDP. That's a real strength in numbers, and it's a case study and a proven model for how this gets done and how we have to replicate that across multiple tech sectors. And so we're building a network across the free world in order to unify everyone who matters in order to go secure high tech. But my conclusion, very grateful that you are here today. We're going to have multiple conversations with our experts from the Krach Institute, the private sector, Purdue University, everyone who's decided to be a solver and not a spectator. And that includes every single one of you here. So thank you for being a part of the Global Trusted Tech Network. It's going to take all of us working together. And this really is a movement that we're creating in order to go secure freedom to secure high tech, so that our generation doesn't have to wonder what happened and fight to take back our freedom, because we're going to go ahead and secure it. And like our friend Len, who's in Israel right now, said, freedom has no choice but to win. So thanks you for being here today. We'll move it to our next panel now and look forward to the discussion and seeing you throughout the day. Thank you.